G'day, May 40 here. What a great day for freedom, but moving from the exuberant to the cognitive, freedom makes no sense outside of a particular hero system. So from my right-wing American perspective, this is a great day for freedom because Facebook has largely given up on censorship and fact-checking, and it is following the model of X. So when Elon Musk bought X, right? Remember, there's a great deal of skepticism by people like Richard Spencer that Elon Musk was just a con man. It wouldn't mean anything. And yet, Elon Musk buying X has been hugely important for American civilization, world civilization. Elon Musk is now throwing in with right-wing free speech, anti-immigration parties from around the world, right? He's giving support to the Alternative for Germany. He wants to interview their leader on X. He wants a vibrant right-wing anti-immigration pro-free speech party in the UK. Maybe that will be the Reform Party under Nigel Farage. Maybe it won't. And it's just changing the world. And it's so much fun. And all right, you're not going to agree with Elon Musk on everything. I don't agree with Elon Musk on everything. But when Elon Musk opened up the platform Twitter to increase levels of free speech, that has had a ripple effect. All right, YouTube has been far less censorious since Elon Musk took over Twitter.
Trump in charge. That's the focus of tonight's angle.
Right, with Trump in charge, Republicans in charge, that means more free speech. Right, there is a very clear connection between Trump in charge and increasing levels of free speech. Remember how depressed we were 4 years ago about restrictions on speech? Not so much anymore.
States. And that's going to create jobs and, of course, boost our GDP. But the media's take on Trump today was, well, more proof that they've learned nothing.
One of the biggest things that stood out to me from that press conference, from moments when Trump got out there before he even started taking questions, is the level of anger.
He's really agitated.
He had a long list of grievances. This should be someone who is upbeat and happy to come in, but he is still full of grievances.
Oh, that's what they took from today? That's it? These people are as clueless as they were when they thought that Taylor Swift and Good Vibes and $1 billion could drag Kamala across the finish line. If Trump was anything today, he was Trump. Confident, determined, candid, and yeah, unafraid to call it as he sees it. If you were looking for optimism, he offered plenty of that today, too.
We are at the beginning of a great, beautiful golden age of business. And I think we're also at a golden age of common sense. Great respect is being shown to our country again. And we have a great country, but we have to run it properly. It's going to be run properly.
And again, unlike Biden, unlike Harris, Trump took questions from reporters. He didn't hesitate to take questions. Most of the reporters, by the way, who never gave him a chance 4 years ago.
On the campaign trail, you vowed to bring down the prices at grocery stores very fast.
Yeah, we won't do it
But then
fast.
you recently told Time Magazine that bringing down prices would be very hard. So what can the American people expect when you get into office?
It's always hard to bring down prices when somebody else has screwed something up like they did. But we'll bring them down. We'll get them down. Energy is going to bring down prices. I think you're going to see some pretty drastic price reductions.
So finally, we have a president who is focused on putting the American people first, not the global climate control freaks who've dominated us under Biden. But on every issue today, issue after issue, he was clear. Other countries aren't going to dictate our policies, and just because a policy has been in place for decades doesn't mean he won't be open to changing that policy, even when our allies are concerned. Because when Trump is president, no one, not even our friends, are going to take advantage of us.
We are not treated well, as you know, by Canada. Canada is subsidized to the tune of about $200 billion a year. They have a very small military. They rely on our military. It's all fine, but, you know, they got to pay for that. It's very unfair.
Yeah, well, it's refreshing. It's refreshing to hear a president standing up for America's interests again, taking a pragmatic approach to protecting the American economy. But again, of course, the backbenchers who literally missed Trump's rise in 2016 and then again in 2024, always underestimating him, could only resort to their old playbook.
That was a trailer. That was an hour-long trailer for the next 4 years, in that he tells a lot of lies.
He tells a lot of lies. Now, this from a media that doggedly refused to report on what was obvious for 4 years. Speaking of lies, well, look, we all saw Biden was not in charge, all the big defenders of democracy. We didn't have a president for the last 4 years. And we certainly didn't have someone living at 1500 Pennsylvania Avenue, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, who was mentally fit for the job. So when they accuse Trump of lying, I say consider the source. The fact is, Trump was speaking inconvenient truths today. Truths about issues that the talking heads don't bother to.
Laura Ingraham was about the first pundit, news, radio star, Fox News star to come out on Donald Trump's side and to say he had a serious chance to win. Right? She was about the first person to do so.
Even think about, as usual.
Meaning in June, was it, of 2015?
He's 5 steps ahead of them.
The Panama Canal is vital.
So it took Steve Saylor about 6 weeks to take Trump seriously. It took me until early August, so about 6 weeks to take Trump seriously in 2015. But Laura Ingraham was taking Trump seriously, and Ann Coulter in June of 2015.
To our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've.
So I was just having a ball once I got on the Trump train in early August of 2015. And I got on the Trump train for the first time. I watched one of his rallies, and he talked about the power of genes. And I felt something. And I normally pay very little attention to political speeches by politicians, just don't care for them. But there was something in the way that Donald Trump spoke, and he had Jeff Sessions on his side, Mr. Anti-Immigration. Jeff Sessions was the mentor to Stephen Miller. So that's when I got on the Trump train, and the world just seemed to open up with possibilities. And I started talking to people. The United States should take over Canada, and we should annex Mexico and take all of Central America down to the Panama Canal. And that would be the most effective and efficient way to cut off illegal immigration. Just squeeze them right down through that narrow point in Central America. And now there is serious talk about taking over Greenland, and there is talk about annexing Canada, and it's funny and fun.
They've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made.
Well, Trump was again.
So I expect the strong to take what they want, the weak to endure what they must. There are problems with annexing Canada and taking Greenland and the Panama Canal by force. But if it's seriously in America's interest, then do it, right? International law be damned. If China is taking control, has the power to sabotage the Panama Canal, and the best way to protect the Panama Canal is for America to reassert control over it, then do it. If we have a serious advantage in taking over Greenland, then do it. If there's something seriously in it for the United States to take over Canada, then do it. So it's not inevitable that when a country expands, it becomes stronger, right? Many countries become weaker the more they expand. When the United States went into Vietnam, that was a giant disaster for Vietnam. When Russia went into Afghanistan, that was a giant disaster for Afghanistan. When Germany went into the Soviet Union in 1941, that became a giant disaster for Germany. You can't just infinitely swallow other nations. But this is just fun. I mean, yes, looking in the chat, the energy. He's 78 years old, crazy energy. He looks good, great energy, really great energy, the best energy. Backbenchers is the wrong term. It's a British term, not worthy for American use. That was the Alabama football stadium. Yeah, great optics. That was the first time I fell for Donald Trump, watching Donald Trump in Alabama. The leaf be trampled. Gimme Greenland.
Refreshingly un-Washington, when he didn't even shy away from the subject, despite Jimmy Carter's lying in state today. Remember, he was the president who presided over the handover.
I liked him as a man. I disagreed with his policy. So, hey, he thought giving away the Panama Canal was a good thing. I think it cost him the election. This was a question that was asked of me. I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to bring up the Panama Canal because of Jimmy Carter's death.
So I can't see the Pacific Palisades fire from where I am, and the air is beautifully crisp and clean in West LA, in Beverly Hills. We're not feeling any of the ill effects, but we have had winds today like we have not had for 13 years.
But people don't bring it up.
Well, it wasn't about disrespecting Carter, and the press knew exactly what it was saying when it brought it up. It's about putting our security first. Now, remember Congressman Mike Gallagher?
I mean, that's just so refreshing, right? Putting America first. And you can obviously make mistakes. You have a mindset of America first, and there might be some things that you get wrong. But that you would expect that just to be a default for not just American politicians, but for Americans. All right, it should be considered socially unacceptable to put the interests of any other nation before your own as a United States citizen. And I am not inhuman. I am not naive about human nature. I recognize that some people have an intense in-group identity, which does involve putting the interests of a foreign nation ahead of America. And so I don't blame those people. They just have an intense in-group identity. So for them, Mexico or China or Japan or Israel might be more important to them, even though they're American citizens. But it should be socially unacceptable to do that publicly, out loud, loud and proud. That should be unacceptable to put any other nation, its interests ahead of your own. So I'm not opposed to Italian American, Chinese American, Jewish American identity. I'm not like Teddy Roosevelt, right? I think we can incorporate different expressions of ethnic and religious identity in the United States, and I welcome that there are Christians who put their Christianity ahead of their American identity. Okay, that's fine. Just don't put any other nation state ahead of America. That should be socially unacceptable. So you put your Judaism, your Christianity, your Islam, your Buddhism, right? As long as you are not causing active damage to the United States of America, I'm fine with different levels of ethnic, racial, and religious identity, but you should not be putting any other nation ahead of American identity. So perhaps the biggest takeaway from this Trump press conference and this Trump wave that we're in is just how much fun it is. And doggone it, if John Podhoretz doesn't capture that.
Trump lifts his pinky and the entire world shakes. Yeah. What he is doing is he is displaying his capacity that he showed during campaign, during his presidency, during his post-presidency, to run everybody ragged. So we have 6 hours, we're talking about Greenland. You haven't even gotten to Panama and re-seizing the canal, and there's all kinds of other stuff.
How about the 51st state of Canada?
And the 51st state of Canada. What I mean
But
you think
this is all bullshit to what end?
It is a sign that he can control the conversation at will by getting a little outlandish, by using very inflammatory rhetoric, and by getting very earnest, middle of the road, mainstream people in the media to lose their cookies.
John, I got
the very sound of his voice.
There are serious people who think the Greenland thing is serious.
I'm not saying that it's not serious. It may be serious.
You're saying the important thing to understand is that when he moves his pinky, everybody jumps.
What he's doing is displaying.
Right. There are many different ways to understand a news story. There is the literal level, which is important. So when Trump talks about the United States acquiring Greenland, then there is important reasons to look at that and to treat that seriously. But there's also the mystical level on which to understand things, the meta level, and I think that's what John Podhoretz is alluding to here. So there's the remez, I believe, there's the pashat, which is the literal interpretation of the text, and then there's the remez, which is the mystical interpretation of the text.
His ability to control the national conversation at any moment, at any point, at any way that he wants to. And Maggie Haberman and the Peter Baker in the 10 million subscriber strong New York Times, in their sort of live blogging of the speech, start saying, He sounds crazy. He's hysterical. He's making unfounded claims about Denmark. Experts say we don't need this or that or the other thing. They are playing on his turf. They are not prepared for the kind of marathon that he is about to start the press on again. And I think that is what I take away from it, is that he is better at this.
Yeah,
but he's better at this than he was.
But John, he's the former president.
Right. That's a great analysis, right? The big picture, right?
To the Middle East. Those hostages better be out,
right?
Or there is hell is going to be unleashed.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to get to that.
That's the news, right?
We're going to get. Well, I agree with you that that's the news. Although, as you point out, that's not new. And the first three letters of news
the Greenland thing isn't new either.
Neither Greenland,
Here's the thing on the Greenland thing that I think is new. Please play number 6.
So Douglas McGregor on Twitter says that the takeover of Greenland by America is a serious consideration. So these clips are
China ships
are not very
well
done.
The incoming commander.
You're making my point. You're making my point for me. What did he say? He said, I'm not going to provide you with national security or defense information about what I'm going to do globally. I'm the president. I'm not going to tell you anything about that.
So Michael Kinsley, I believe, regards John Podhoretz as the greatest magazine editor in America over the last 10, 15 years. Mike Kinsley is the greatest editor of a magazine in America for probably, 50 years? So, and I don't share John Podhoretz's politics, and there's so much about him that I don't like, but I got to give him respect where respect is due.
But 38,000 people died of malaria building the Panama Canal in 1903, and we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars to protect Canada.
John, let me stipulate. I've said
so. John Podhoretz has conducted himself in ways that are just so gross and so over the top and so nasty that it would be completely normal for people to just completely dismiss him. But he also has a brilliance. Donald Trump has conducted himself in ways that are so unbecoming, such as whatever role he played in January 6th, that I understand why many people would just dismiss him. But I'm not a big fan of dismissing people. I'm not a big fan of cutting people out of your life. Just dial people up or down in your life. And John Podhoretz has much about him that is over the top and sickening and reprehensible, but he's also doggone really good at some things.
I said before, the only thing harder than running against Donald Trump as a politician is covering him. And I don't say that glibly. I think it's true. Okay? And I completely agree with you that Donald Trump can manipulate us into doing things. I completely agree. And that's a huge challenge because and look, Bill Clinton did a version of this too, right? He'd say don't look over here, look over here, right? But it doesn't answer the question of how the new media, including us, should talk.
Right. How to cover Donald Trump. Right. Not easy.
What's actually happening? Like, as they said, somebody said in the middle of the press conference, hey, Judge Cannon just agreed with you that Jack Smith's report should not be published.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Judge Burr, talk about the Mershon sentencing.
I just feel like we're going to have another 4 years of Donald Trump just saying the most outlandish things that seem impossible. I mean, there's a really good chance. So Donald Trump says he's going to unleash hell on the Middle East if the hostages are not freed by January 20th. What does that mean? All right, that likely means that Donald Trump is going to drop the biggest bombs that America has on Iran. He could just choose to wipe out their oil refining facilities, to wipe out their nuclear facilities, to wipe out the Revolutionary Guard leadership, to wipe out their Islamist leadership. He loves those big bombs, right? The biggest bomb ever, right? The United States dropped on Afghanistan under Trump because Trump really wanted to see the effects of it. And what he's saying is that he's just going to bomb the hell out of Iran, right? He's threatening to do that if Iran doesn't pressure its somewhat proxy Hamas to free hostages, right? That might be effective strategy.
He was then chair of the Select Committee on the CCP. He laid it all out in stark terms, saying in 2023, a visitor to the Panama Canal might think they were in China. Ports at both ends of the canal are managed by companies from the People's Republic of China, while Huawei dominates the country's telecom system.
Right. The United States taking over the Panama Canal is not a crazy idea. The United States taking over Greenland is not a crazy idea. These might be vital American national security interests, as opposed to what goes on between Israel and Gaza, not a vital national security interest.
Yeah, pretty important, don't you think? Since 2018, Panama has been a member of China's Belt and Road Initiative as well, and Xi's plan to dominate all global trade. It's part